Good morning, students. The topic I am going to discuss with you today is about the population ecology, which is coming under the paper Environmental Biology. I am Dr. S.Angelina GLORITA PARIMALA, Associate Professor of Zoology, A.D.M. College for Women, Nagapattinam. Let us see first about the definition. Population ecology is the study of how various factors affect population growth, rates of survival, reproduction, and risk of extinction. In population ecology, the term population refers to a group of members or individuals of a species living in a particular area. Next, we will see about the types of population. Populations are of two types. They are monospecific and polyspecific population. A monospecific population is formed of only one species. A polyspecific population is formed of many related species. Let us see some of the important characters of population. Number 1, population density. 2, natality. 3, mortality. 4, population growth. Number 5, age distribution of population, and the last one is population fluctuations. Let us see one by one. Number 1, population density. Population density refers to the size of any population in relation to some unit of space. It is expressed in terms of the number of individuals or biomass per unit area or volume. For example, 500 teak trees per hectare, 40 lions per 100 km square, 5 million diatoms per cubic meter of water. Population density is seldom static and it changes with time and space. The next is about the methods to measure the population density. Population size can be measured by several methods. Number 1, abundance. It indicates the absolute number of individuals in a population. Number 2, numerical density. It represents the number of individuals per unit area or volume. It is expressed when the size of individuals in the population is relatively uniform, as in mammals, insects and birds. Number 3, biomass density. Biomass density is expressed in terms of wet weight, dry weight, volume, carbon and nitrogen weight per unit area or volume. Population density can be expressed in two ways: crude population density and ecological density. First is about the crude population density. When the density is expressed with reference to total area at a particular time. The next one is ecological density, when the density is expressed with reference to total area of habitat available to the species. The distribution between crude density and ecological density become important because the patterns of distribution of individuals in nature are different. Population density can be calculated by the following equation. D is equal to N divided by A divided by T, where D is population density, N is the number of individuals, A is the area and T is the unit time. Density of human population can be obtained by dividing the total number of persons in an area by the total land area of the region. Density of population of a country can be obtained by dividing the total number of persons living in the given region by total land area of that region. Average population density in developing countries are more or less compared to those in developed countries. The next is about the factors influencing population size. Here we can include immigration, emigration, natality and mortality. The next is the diagrammatic view of the factors influencing the population diagram with reference to birds. The next is about the natality. Natality refers to the rate of reproduction or birth per unit time. It is an expression of the production of new individuals in the population by birth, hatching, germination or fission. Natality is calculated by the following formula: birth rate or natality B is equal to number of births per unit time per average population. The maximum number of births produced per individual under ideal conditions of environment is called potential natality. It is also called reproductive or biotic potential, absolute natality or maximum natality. The maximum or absolute natality is observed when the species exists under ideal ecological and genetic conditions. The actual number of births occurring under the existing environmental conditions is much less as compared to absolute natality. It is referred to as ecological natality or realized natality. It is not constant for population and may vary with the size of population as well as with the time. Natality varies from organism to organism. It depends upon the population density and environmental factors. It is a general rule that if the population density is usually low, the birth rate is also low. This is so because the chances of mating between the males and females are low. If population density is unusually high, the birth rate may also be low due to poor nutrition or physiological or psychological problems related to crowding. The next one is about the mortality. Mortality refers to the number of deaths in population per unit time. Mortality rate is equal to D divided by T, where D is the number of deaths in the time T. Mortality can be expressed in the following two ways. Number one, minimum or specific or potential mortality. It represents the minimum loss of individuals under ideal or non-limiting condition. Thus, even under the best conditions, individuals of a population would die of old age determined by their physiological longevity. So, it is constant for a population. The next is ecological or realized mortality. It refers to the death of individuals of a population under existing environmental conditions. Since it varies with environmental conditions, it is never constant. The maximum mortality occurs at the egg, larval, seedling and old age. Mortality is affected by a number of factors such as density, competition, disease, predation and environment. Death rates vary among the species and are correlated with birth rates. When the rate of natality is equal to the rate of mortality, the population is stationary. The next is about the vital index. A birth-death ratio is called vital index. Births divided by death into 100. For a population, the survival of individuals is more important than the death. The number of births in relation to the carrying capacity of the habitat is a fundamental factor influencing the mortality rate. When more youngs are born than the habitat can support, the surplus must either die or leave the area, because the number of survivors is more important than the number of dying individuals. Mortality is better expressed as survival or as life expectancy. The life expectancy refers to the average number of years the members of a population have left to live. The next is about the population growth. The growth is one of the dynamic features of species population. Population size increases in a characteristic way. When the number of individuals of population is plotted on the y-axis and the time on the x-axis, a curve is obtained that indicates the trend in the growth of population size in a given time. This curve is also called population growth curve. There are two types of growth curves. Number one is sigmoid curve. When a few organisms are introduced in an area, the population increase is very slow in the beginning. That is called positive acceleration phase or lag phase. In the middle phase, the population increase becomes very rapid. This is called logarithmic phase. And finally, in the last phase, the population increase is slowed down. That is called negative acceleration phase. Until an equilibrium is attained, the population size fluctuates according to variability of environment. The level beyond which no major increase can occur is referred to as saturation level or carrying capacity. In the last phase, the new organisms are almost equal to the number of dying individuals, and thus there is no increase in population size. In this way, one gets sigmoid or S-shaped growth curve. The next is about J-shaped curve. The second type of growth curve is J-shaped. Here in the first phase there is no increase in population size because it needs some time for adjustment in the new environment. Soon after the population is established in the new environment, it starts multiplying rapidly. This increase in population is continued till large amount of food materials exist in the habitat. After some time, due to increase in population size, food supply in the habitat becomes limited, which ultimately results in decrease in population size. This will result in J-shaped curve rather than S-shaped growth curve. This is the diagram showing J and S-shaped growth curve. Here in the first one, the growth rate of the population accelerates, and in the S-shaped, here the rate accelerates first, then it attains a point of maximum growth, then it leads to the rate slows down, and also the carrying capacity of the environment also slows down. The next is about the age distribution. Age distribution is another important characteristics of population which influences natality and mortality. Mortality usually varies with age as the chances of death are more in early and later periods of lifespan. Similarly, natality is restricted to certain age groups, and generally the individuals of a population can be divided into pre-reproductive, reproductive and post-reproductive groups. The individuals of pre-reproductive group are young, those of reproductive group are mature, and those in post-reproductive group are old. The distribution of ages may be constant or variable. It is directly related to the growth rate of the population. Depending upon the proportion of the three age groups, populations can be said to be growing, mature or stable, and diminishing. In other words, the ratio of various age groups in a population determines the reproductive status of the population. Rapidly increasing population contains a large proportion of young individuals. A stable population shows even distribution of individuals in reproductive age group, and a declining population contains a large proportion of old individuals. The next is about the age pyramids. Age pyramid is a model in which the numbers or proportions of individuals in various age groups at a given time are geometrically presented. In an age pyramid, the number of pre-reproductive individuals are shown at the base, that of reproductive age group in the middle, and the number of post-reproductive individuals at the top. This is a diagram showing the age pyramid. Here it indicates pre-reproductive individuals, reproductive individuals and post-reproductive individuals. The next is about the population pyramids. There are generally three types of population pyramids created from age-sex distributions: expansive, constructive and stationary. Expansive population pyramids shows larger number or percentages of the population in the younger age groups, usually with each age group smaller in size or proportion than the one born before it. These types of pyramids are usually found in populations with very large fertility rates and lower than average life expectations. The age-sex distributions of Latin American and many third world countries would probably display expansive population pyramids. Constructive population pyramids display lower numbers or percentages of younger people. The age-sex distributions of the United States and Pennsylvania fall into this type of pyramid. The third one is stationary or near stationary population pyramids display somewhat equal numbers or percentage of almost all age groups. Of course, smaller figures are still to be expected at the oldest age groups. The age-sex distributions of some European countries, especially Scandinavian ones, will tend to fall into this category. The shape of age pyramid changes with the changes in the population age distribution over a period of time. The age pyramid indicates whether a population is expanding or stable or diminishing, and accordingly, three hypothetical age pyramids have been suggested. These are as follows. Pyramid with broad base. This pyramid shows a high percentage of young individuals and an exponential growth of population due to high birth rate, as for example in yeast housefly paramecium. Pyramid with broad base, pyramid with bell shaped, and the last one is pyramid with narrow base. Number 1 is about bell shaped pyramid. This type of age pyramid shows a stationary or stable population having more or less equal number of young and middle aged individuals and post reproductive individuals being the smallest in number. The next one is pyramid with narrow base. This is an urn-shaped pyramid which shows increased number of middle-aged and old organisms as compared to young ones in the population. It is indicative of contracting or diminishing population. The next is about the population fluctuations. The size and density of natural population shows a changing pattern over a period of time. This is called population fluctuation. There are 3 types of variations in the patterns of population are: number 1, non-fluctuating. When the population remains static over the years, it is said to be non-fluctuating. The second one is cyclic. The cyclic variations may be seasonal and annual. Sometimes seasonal changes occur in the population and there are additions to the population at the time of maximum reproduction and losses under adverse climatic conditions. Common examples of seasonal variations are met in mosquitoes and houseflies, which are abundant in particular season, and so also the weeds in the field during the rainy season. When the population of a species shows regular ups and downs over the years, it is called annual cyclic variation. It appears in the form of a sigmoid curve with regular drops in population after peaks. The last one is eruptive. When the change in population density does not occur at regular intervals or in response to any obvious environmental factor, it is said to be eruptive fluctuation. In this, there is a sudden exponential or logarithmic increase in population density in short time, followed by equally quick drop in population density due to deaths and final return to normal level or even below that level. The next is significance of population ecology. Population refers to a group of organisms of the same species living in a particular area at a given time. The individuals are morphologically and anatomically similar. They are genetically related and are reproductively isolated from other species. The increase and decrease in the number of individuals in a population is called population fluctuations. It is an unique feature in population ecology. The environmental resistance will be low when a population is first introduced into the new territory, and an increase in the population also increase with the environmental resistance in the form of competition, predation, parasitism, and scarcity of food. To conclude, a population is a subgroup of individuals within the same species that are living and breeding within a geographic area. The number of individuals living within that specific location determines the population density, or the number of individuals divided by the size of the area. In the future, the world's population is expected to peak, after which it will decline due to economic reasons, health concerns, landslides, and environmental hazards. Thank you.